All right, this is a quick review, very quick review of what we learned that you need to know for the trig retake. Okay, so the basic idea for this test, everything kind of revolves around a right triangle. So when you're doing a word problem, you're going to draw a right triangle, or you're given a right triangle, and being able to label that. So everything is in relation to an angle. So we'll give this a number, let's say 32 degrees, okay? So you're either going to find a missing side or find a missing angle. If you're given an angle, then you would need at least one other side. So let's say this is 15, and you would be asked to solve for, say, this side. I need to be able to take this picture and label the sides in relationship to this angle. So for this angle, I'm going to look across from me, and that's going to be labeled the opposite side. Okay, the hypotenuse is always across from the right angle, and this side right next to me is the adjacent side. If I can label my triangle, then everything else revolves around the three trig functions. And we said the memory trick is Sohcahtoa. I like to write it like this: Sohcahtoa. And those are the three trig functions that will help you solve. So in this case, I'm going to look here. What I've been given is this side, and I need to solve this side. So the letters that are involved are O and A. So I'm going to go over here and look which function uses O and A, and that is the tangent function. So I'm going to set this up as tangent of the angle measure equals Sohcahtoa, opposite, so opposite over adjacent. All right, and I would use X instead of A. Okay, when my problem looks like this, I'm always going to handle it the same way. I'm going to cross multiply, which means when I do that, X and the tangent of 32 will end up trading places. So I'm going to call this the same thing as 15 over tangent 32. Now when I go to enter that in my calculator, I'm simply going to enter 15 divided by, I have to hit 32 before I can hit tangent, then hit the equals. And let's see what I get. So for this case, I got 15 divided by 32 tangent equals. And I got 24.005. So that would mean my missing side is 24. Okay, you're going to do the same process no matter what the problem is, based on what side you're given. So first you label. So number one, label in relationship to the angle that you're dealing with. Okay, then you're going to find the right trig function. In other words, pick which one you're going to use, sine, cosine, or tangent, and then set up the equation. And then you'll just solve it in your calculator. So this one, our variable was on the bottom of the fraction. Let's do a different example. Let's say instead of being given those two, let's switch it to where we're given, let's say we'll say that this side is 18. All right, so now I'm going to look. I was given my adjacent side and my hypotenuse. I'm going to come over and look who uses adjacent and hypotenuse. That is cosine. So this one would be set up as cosine of 32 equals adjacent side, which is X, over hypotenuse, which is 18. Okay, this one looks different, right? Because now the X is on top. When I go to solve this, I'm going to cross multiply, and I'm going to get 18 times cosine of 32 equals, and the way I'm going to enter that in my calculator, but I have to enter 18 times 32 cosine. That's what I actually punch in my buttons. So let's go 18 times 32 cosine equals, and that came out to 15.26. If I was asked to round this to the nearest tenth, is what you would be doing on the test, this would become 15.3 as my answer. Okay, and those three labeling, picking the right trig function, is the basics of that test. Now, the other thing you would have to do is, if you're given two sides, you have to find an angle measure. So let's look at this example in that respect. So let's draw this another triangle, and these triangles can be, the right angle can be anywhere in the angle you're looking for. So we'll switch this one up. We'll put the angle up here. We'll call this a, so let's say 48-degree angle. And oh wait, no, we're going to find the missing angle. I'm sorry. So we don't know what this is. So this is some angle. Let me not even do that. We'll call this A, B, C. So say you're asked to solve for angle A, and they gave you 15, and let's call this 27. Okay, so step one, label the picture. That's why I always tell you, draw the picture when you're doing online tests. Okay, draw it out. Word problem or any of them, when you're already given it, you need it on paper so you can label. So in relationship to this angle, this would be opposite. This is the right angle, so it's opposite of the hypotenuse, so that's the hypotenuse. We don't have the adjacent side, so it's not going to be involved in this problem. So I'm going to look at my trig function, sine, cosine, Sohcahtoa. All right, so now I'm going to look who uses O and H, that is sine. So I'm going to set up a sine function for a missing angle. We'll just call it, it's called angle A right now. Sine of A equals opposite over hypotenuse. Okay, now from this point, what I'm going to enter in my calculator is 15 divided by 27 equals, I'm going to hit the second key to get to the inverse trig, and then I'm going to hit the inverse trig button, which would be, it's labeled like that, and that's going to give me the value of that angle measure. So 15 divided by 27 equals second sine, and I get angle A equal to 33.74 in my calculator. I know on the test I said round to the nearest degree, so that means I want a whole number, so that means 7 is going to round this up, and I would enter 34 as my answer. And that is all you really need to know for this trig test. There's one other thing that I've just realized. We talked about how we did one day when we had a 30, 60, 90, 30, 60, and a right angle. Well, we did a quick day. Well, there's two things. We did a quick day on 45, 45, 90, and 30, 60, 90. And it's a little shortcut. So if you have a 45, 45, 90 degree triangle, these sides would be the same. This side is always the leg times the square root of 2. That's what it's always going to be. So if you know the leg times the square root of 2 gives you the hypotenuse. On a 30, 60, 90, this actually is not labeled correctly. Let me redo this. That would have to be the 30. This would have to be the 60. Okay. Short side is across from the 30. The short side, if you know the short side, if If you double that, you get the hypotenuse. And if you take the short side times the square root of 3, you get the long side. Now, you don't have to know any of this about special right triangles. We just threw it in there as an extra, and it's kind of a shortcut. So I've still got charts on the wall, so if you're in class, you can use the charts on the wall. And then the last thing we talked about was, we said the sine, taking any triangle, the idea that whatever this angle is, we'll call it 40. If that angle is 40, what do we know about this angle? It would have to be 50, right? Because all of them add up to 180. So this is 90, we know. So that leaves 90 to be shared between these two angles. So these must equal 90, which means they're complements of each other. And then so we said that the cosine, if we take the cosine of 40, well, that's going to be adjacent over hypotenuse. So we said the cosine of 40 would be adjacent over hypotenuse. Okay, but this, and the sine of 50 is opposite over, I got that labeled wrong, hypotenuse. Oh, good grief. Okay, let me back up. So the cosine of this angle right here would be its adjacent side over the hypotenuse. Okay, the sine of this angle would be opposite over hypotenuse. Opposite over hypotenuse. But in this case, the adjacent side for the 40 degrees and the opposite side for the 50 degrees are the same side. So these two are equal. So what we know is that the cosine and sine are always complements of each other. So the cosine of 40 would always equal the sine of 50, or whatever you plug in there. If you had cosine of 27, then sine is going to be, what is that, 63. These two numbers have to always add up to 90 degrees. So the cosine of an angle is equal to the sine of its complement. Those two are always going to be, if they're complementary angles, then they're going to be equal. And that was the last little idea. Okay, so the main part of it is being able to draw a triangle, label it, pick the right trig function, and then use your calculator to find the final answer. All right, hope that helps, and we've got the retake available on Canvas for you to do. All right, bye-bye.